Here's my plan to dismantle the deep state and reclaim our democracy from Washington corruption once and for all, and corruption it is. First, I will immediately reissue my 2020 executive order restoring the president's authority to remove rogue bureaucrats, and I will wield that power very aggressively. Second, we will clean out all of the corrupt actors in our national security and intelligence apparatus, and there are plenty of them. The departments and agencies that have been weaponized will be completely overhauled so that faceless bureaucrats will never again be able to target and persecute conservatives, Christians, or the left's political enemies, which they're doing now at a level that nobody can believe even possible. Third, we will totally reform FISA courts, which are so corrupt that the judges seemingly do not care when they are lied to in warrant applications. So many judges have seen so many applications that they know were wrong, or at least they must have known. They do nothing about it. They're lied to. Fourth, to expose the hoaxes and abuses of power that have been tearing our country apart, we will establish a Truth and Reconciliation Commission to declassify and publish all documents on deep state spying, censorship, and corruption, and there are plenty of them. Fifth, we will launch a major crackdown on government leakers who collude with the fake news to deliberately weave false narratives and to subvert our government and our democracy. When possible, we will press criminal charges. Sixth, we will make every Inspector General's office independent and physically separated from the departments they oversee so they do not become the protectors of the deep state. Seventh, I will ask Congress to establish an independent auditing system to continually monitor our intelligence agencies to ensure they are not spying on our citizens or running disinformation campaigns against the American people, or that they are not spying on someone's campaign like they spied on my campaign. Eighth, we will continue the effort launched by the Trump administration to move parts of the sprawling federal bureaucracy to new locations outside the Washington swamp. Just as I moved the Bureau of Land Management to Colorado, as many as 100,000 government positions could be moved out, and I mean immediately, of Washington to places filled with patriots who love America, and they really do love America. Ninth, I will work to ban federal bureaucrats from taking jobs at the companies they deal with and that they regulate. So they deal with these companies and they regulate these companies, and then they want to take jobs from these companies. Doesn't work that way. Such a public display cannot go on, and it's taking place all the time, like with Big Pharma. Finally, I will push a constitutional amendment to impose term limits on members of Congress. This is how I will shatter the deep state and restore government that is controlled by the people and for the people. Thank you very much.
Well, there you go. You heard it, ladies and gentlemen. That's what he said he's going to do, and I believe that's what he's going to do. So let me fix my lighting here. I'm working on my in-house studio. One sec. There we go. That should be a bit better. And so it begins. You know what? I don't even like that. It's too much. Yeah. Let's just go with the shady Bruce, like the guy selling you knockoff Viagra on a beach town in Cancun. Well, good evening. I'm Bruce McDonald, and this is, of course, the Talamanca Review. Happy to be here. It's 8:09 p.m. on the 7th of November 2024, and what a time to be alive. I don't think anybody would deny that. I don't think anybody could deny that. This is a heady time. I mean, it has the feel of like a big prize fight, like Rumble in the Jungle, like Ali and Fraser back in the 70s. Or like the Canada-Russia final series hockey game in 1972, which is a particularly special moment for Canadians. I don't expect you Americans to understand, but it was a pretty big deal. And this has that kind of emotional fervor as well. And I'm torn. Because part of me just wants to go with the optimism and, let you folks feel good and take a breath, And you don't need old Bruce here badgering you with what's to come and, full disclosure, I completely supported Trump all the way through the campaign, and I still support him. But for reasons that a lot of people would find a little bit maybe disconcerting, okay? I have come to believe that there's a cycle we have to go through for our collective sanity, for those people who can't self-enlighten, self-deprogram. We have to go through a massive cathartic process of finalizing the Abrahamic scriptures, okay? Now, remember what a catharsis is. I'm going to look it up for you, and I'm going to tell you what a catharsis is, okay? The process of releasing and thereby providing relief from strong or repressed emotions. And I'll even let you hear how Google says it.
Catharsis. Catharsis. Catharsis.
Catharsis. So there's all this pent-up emotion, and bottling up human emotion is a pastime of our controllers because that's what they're harvesting. Okay? And there's different ways of doing it. Okay? Everybody focuses on the scare stuff, the reptilian stuff, but the truth is, even so-called benign extraterrestrials are harvesting us, and this includes the Palladians, the Nordics, and others, okay? It's all about taking our energy, and truth be told, we're not using it, right? It's like finding vast oil reserves in a part of Africa where they're still living in grass huts. I mean, what do they need with the oil, right? Let's just go and take it. But we do need our energy. That's the whole point. And energy leakage in moments of profound excitement and profound sadness or pain are exactly the methods by which we are in fact harvested. So really we want to control our energy, and we want to manage our energy, and we want to be the center of our own reality, and that's how we get through all of this stuff, okay? Now I'm going to start to go through everything that I think we've been leading up to. And what it is, I don't know. I wouldn't mind having an astrologer on my show some night. And fortunately, or coincidentally, I now know a couple top-notch astrologers. So I'd like to ask some questions about these 2600-year cycles, What is involved in going from Pisces to Aquarius and things like this? But this is going to be a bit of a recap show, but I'm not afraid of recapping anymore. I've always been self-conscious as a podcaster. I always feel I have to have fresh material, new insights. But what I've learned in talking to a lot of folks offline is there's more than enough I've put out in the 200 or so podcasts I've already done for me to just keep, rehashing it and re-talking about it. Because they're very dense, and not everybody gets them out of the gate, and that's something that I don't account for, right? I just think everybody's going to get this, and But then why would it be that way? Because it took me years to figure these things out. Years of spiritual practice. So let's start at the beginning, okay? It all begins with our consciousness. And our consciousness at its base animalistic level is perceiving the environment around us to gain access to the necessary things we need to survive, which of course are part of our biological necessities. That's food, water, shelter, and if you can get all that done, then you might even be able to procreate, which is the penultimate biological experience of a human being. Procreation is a big, big deal, okay? I think we've lost a lot of respect for what procreation and family is in Western culture. And part of what's going on now is a necessary realignment, okay? All right, we have a new president. And I shouldn't say we because I'm not American, but really, I think that the President of the United States is in many ways still the leader of at least the Western part of the world. There's no doubt that Xi Jinping is probably the leader of the East now. Okay, so we live in two very polarized realities. We live in the East and we live in the West, okay? And I think I addressed that last night about how there will never be any real unification between the East and the West because we're just such incredibly different cultures. I think the East is rising now. You know, I mean, when you take into account things like the only existing photos of what we call quantum entanglement now, and these would be two light photons in quantum entanglement, look exactly like the Taoist yin-yang symbol. I would say that we're coming into the age of the Chinese. Now, the Chinese consciousness has always been a little bit more elevated than the West. You say, well, Bruce, how could that be? We've been running the world. And how have we been doing that? We've been doing it with a lot of violence, a lot of force, and a lot of applied control on other societies. And nobody was prepared for what we were bringing. Nobody was prepared for the level of organized warfare that the Europeans and the British in particular brought. Let's just call it what it was. It was really the Vatican and the Bank of England were really hand in hand through most of the exploration of the world. And why did we do that? Well, we did it for our God. Because if they don't hear about Jesus, they're not going to be saved. Okay? Now remember, I always do a podcast assuming I have people listening to me for the first time. So this doesn't imply any disrespect for Jesus. I think he's one of the greatest teachers to come to the planet. And I hold the Gospels in high regard and reread them a couple times a year, believe it or not. I do, alongside a lot of other things that I reread. But there is no such thing as salvation doctrine. Okay, there's absolutely no such thing as salvation doctrine. You cannot be saved by signing a contract with a church, getting baptized, and doing these sorts of things. You cannot be saved with a deathbed confession. Okay? And there's nothing to be saved from. It's an ongoing process of rehabilitation down here. The process is simply you own what you create. So if you spend a lifetime creating misery and death and despair for people, then you will reincarnate however number of times it's necessary for you to experience that and pay back what you did to the other people until you get the lesson. You own what you create. It's this idea that we're all one thing. So when you feel like punching someone in the face, even though you might not fully realize it or understand it spiritually yet, keep in mind that you're really punching yourself in the face because sooner or later you're going to get punched in the face. Okay? These laws are unfailing and inescapable. Unfailing and inescapable. and nothing we have tried has been able to mute them or to escape the consequence of them, including timeline tinkering, which was a big part of the Super Soldier program. They want to make it sound like a secret space program and stuff like this, but the truth is they were doing a lot of time-based missions. Okay? That gentleman I had here for 4 months who I had to ask to leave, wonderful guy, good friend of mine. I think I'll give him a call, say hello. Demonically bothered or possessed, no doubt, but I don't judge. And he did several hundred time-based missions. And you'd be amazed how they do it, how esoteric, how metaphysical it is. You think it's science, but it's closer to magic. Okay? Making me recall the utterances of Arthur C. Clarke. At their highest expressions, one can barely tell the difference between magic and science. Okay? So what they would do is they would locate these people in a past life, and they would take the present consciousness, which would have a vibratory resonance with the incarnate body in the timeline, and they would project that consciousness through time into the body of their past life. So it's like being possessed by yourself from the future. Think about that for a sec. It was like being possessed by yourself from the future. So you're walking around in 1943, you're an American soldier, you're in Poland, or you're wherever you're deployed, and a group of people in like the late 90s, early 2000s want to do something where you are, and they pop you back there into the body you occupied in 1943, and you're programmed with the mission you're supposed to do, and then you come back. I know. I know, I feel like an idiot even saying it out loud, but I think I will be vindicated in the near future. Okay? And there's been a lot of people out talking about these things. What has happened on this planet in terms of violation of the sacrosanct rules laid down by the Creator and agencies of the Creator in every dimension has been the true definition of blasphemy. Okay? And blasphemy is to defile God. It's not to defile a scripture. Okay? True blasphemy. And the Creator has the capacity to forgive all of these things because the Creator doesn't really have a personality the way you and I do. And the Creator is all of us. So it's like one cell attacking another cell. It's like cancer in the Creator's body. Okay? But the Creator can cure cancer and doesn't have to chemo the cancerous cell. So this is the soup we live in, which is why some spiritual paths advocate that you do not do anything worldly when you commit to spiritual practice. That you just focus on your spiritual exercises, cycle out of your karma, and don't come back here, because nothing can really change this place or make it better, because it was created for a purpose, and it's serving the purpose it was created to do. Keep that in mind when you meet busybodies who think they're going to make the world better. Keep that in mind when you recontextualize the progressive movement and all of these insane people we've had to look at as the election results came in. In fact, let's do that for our own amusement right now, because I love doing it and it's pretty funny. So let's do it. Some of the stuff
has been happening at this episode.
Okay, here we go. Oh my God, you're gonna love this, okay? Here we go. Boo-hoo. Here we go. We're gonna have a little cry now. You're gonna have a little cry now, Rachel Maddow.
But let me also point out something more strange, which has been happening at the same time and it hasn't had as much attention. The day before Trump made those remarks on Friday, he said, you're never going to have to vote again after you vote for me this one time. The day before that, on Thursday last week, he didn't say that people wouldn't have to vote anymore once he was elected this November. No, the day before that, on Thursday, he told his supporters, not that they're not going to have to vote again, but that they don't have to vote this time, that they don't need to vote for him this November.
My instruction, we don't need the votes. I have so many votes.
My instruction, we don't need the votes. I have so many votes. He said that on Thursday last week. And it turns out this is something, when you look, he says this all the time now. Watch.
My instruction, we don't need the votes. I have so many votes.
We don't need votes. I tell my people, I don't need any votes. We got all the votes we need. I don't need votes. We don't need votes. We got more votes than anybody's ever had. You don't have to vote. Don't worry about voting. The voting, we got plenty of votes.
Don't worry about voting. Of all the weirdness around this campaign, this is a truly strange thing to tell people, right? Don't vote. I don't need your vote. I don't want your vote. I mean, all the surface level weirdness is, worth noting. Having a new position on literally anything you can think of as soon as any random rich guy tells you to, that's a weird thing. Picking the eccentric billionaire's intern for your running mate, even though you apparently had no idea who he was or what a disaster he is on television, all of this is weird. But telling voters, do not bother to vote for me, it doesn't matter if you do, I don't need your votes. That is a thing that should prick up your ears. Because what that means is that he doesn't think he needs to win the vote to win the election. He doesn't think he needs to win the election in order to take power. He thinks something other than votes is going to determine whether or not he gets back in the White House.
You can't make this shit up. I dare you to even try. All right, so so I think they're planning their own January 6th insurrection now, these progressives, and Rachel Maddow will be down in the front lines at Capitol Hill as Trump's being sworn in. But rather than America flags, they're going to show up with teddy bears and pillows, and it's going to be a big pillow fight. That's going to be the leftist insurrection. And we won't even bother putting them in jail, because what's the point? The larger question here is, what's accounting for this level of cognitive dissonance? Why is there so much cognitive dissonance? Why are people having such a difficult time connecting with reality and just dealing in an adult fashion with what's going on here? And the New World Order is, Vladimir Putin has said the New World Order is finished with the Trump election. There's a lot of stuff going on now, okay? But this is the Talamanca Review. And I'm Bruce McDonald, so you're going to get a slightly different take on everything that's going on. Okay? I just want to get some more leftist lunacy, because it's just, I can't resist. I can't help. I'm so petty sometimes. I'll be the first to admit it, okay? I told you so, okay? I can't help myself. I got to play this. It's only 1 minute and 27 seconds.
We are about to enter a political period that will have consequences for the rest of our lives. We cannot give up. We now find ourselves in a time in history that has precedent, and we find ourselves, I believe, in a time where there are, let's say, peers in history of mass movements of people that mobilize to protect one another in times of fascism and authoritarianism. And this is the era that we are poised to enter. Donald Trump has talked about turning the military on U.S. citizens that he deems his domestic political enemies. Authoritarians and people that he affiliates closely with and strongmen abroad in regimes like that, it is not uncommon to jail political dissidents or legislative opponents. this is the world that we very realistically may be entering.
So remember that great word I taught you? It's time to start using it. Hyperbole. I have never seen such ridiculous hyperbole in my life. But was it not the Democrats just weeks ago, or maybe a month at the most, who signed a bill saying that for the first time ever, the United States Army could shoot on American citizens? I believe they just signed that. I defy anybody to fact check me and prove that that's wrong. You can't make this shit up. The funniest thing about what's going on here is that every single thing that these people on the left are saying Donald Trump might do, or projecting onto him, was exactly what they were doing. Okay? Now, this is one of the laws of consciousness. Now, a lot of people of diminished capacity, diminished perceptual capacity, assign negative intent to this. Okay? They think that this is all thought out and that these people are doing this on purpose. No. They're caught up in their own consciousness drama. Remember Bruce McDonald's definition of insanity? All you can see is yourself. All they can see is themselves now. Okay? And because all they can see is themselves, they're projecting themselves onto Donald Trump. Remember what I told you when the crazy person looks at the stars or a sunrise or the wind blowing through the trees? They don't see the stars. They see themselves seeing the stars. They don't see the wind blowing through the trees. They see themselves seeing the wind blowing through the trees. And they don't see the sunrise. They see themselves seeing the sunrise. That is insanity, when you cannot escape yourself. Okay? I just take a moment to plug meditation again. It eradicates a lot of that stuff, because if you're a self-involved person to that degree, meditation will be a form of torture for you. Okay? But it's a necessary torture. It is the true spiritual version of the mid-20th century Catholic flogging themselves in a monastery. The old Irish grandmother, you've been a sinner today, Mary. You better take 40 lashes. And if you think that doesn't go on, you're crazy. My mother was in a Carmelite monastery in like 1960, 61. She flogged herself every night before going to bed, as did all the other sisters there. Okay? Welcome to the insanity that is the human race. And it just will not stop anytime soon. Okay? But it is a purge of sorts, and it's a purge of our consciousness. And, oh my God, I can't. Oh, I can't resist. I'm sorry. I usually don't play this many videos, but this is my Schadenfreude moment, my I told you so moment. Now remember, I'm also the guy that says there's a dark side to this Trump presidency, and we're going to get to that in the second half of the podcast, which is coming up soon, by the way. Let's take a look at this. It's our favorite witch.
Kind of threats that you hear coming out of Donald Trump should scare every American, because with an authoritarian, you never know what side of the bed they'll wake up on. You never know who they're going to be upset with today. You never know if somebody, basically bribes them by giving business to a relative or, some other gift that they will try to destroy one business to advantage another. You just never know, because they don't believe in the rule of law. They don't believe in institutions. And therefore, if you give them a chance to be more unfettered than he was in his first term, when he was trying to figure out what he could do, and he had actually some people around who were restraining him, that is all going to be gone. If he ever gets back near the White House again, it will be like having a dictator. And I don't say that lightly, but go back and read Project 2025. They're going to fire everybody. Oh, the person in, the government who knows about what may be the next pandemic, get rid of him. He didn't vote for me, or I don't, like the way he looks. I mean, just think about the chaos and the instability that we got through with COVID, although it cost hundreds of thousands more lives than it should have, because he was such an inept leader.
I'm going to say it. You know you're thinking it, but I'm going to say it. Lock her up. Lock her up. Of course Trump is going to wield power this time. Okay? And he's going to do it effectively, and he's going to...
that you hear coming out.
And he's going to do what he should have done in his first term, but he didn't know how to do, and he didn't know how to assemble a team around him. Now, why are these people so afraid? Because Donald Trump, now I'm speaking politically, I'm gonna pull, remember, life is a series of concentric circles. If you don't know what a concentric circle is, think of the rings of a tree, okay? So if you concentrate all your attention on the ring of a tree, then everything happening inside that ring is true for what's happening inside that ring. If you pull your attention out a little bit more and look at the circumstances with a larger, more spiritual perspective, you're going to have more data, you're going to have more insight into what's going on, okay? So these people are terrified, and they should be terrified. The greatest disrespecters of the rule of law and the greatest self-advantage people in the White House in the last 30 years have been Bill and Hillary Clinton. Those ignorant white trash hillbillies from wherever she's from and him from Arkansas. Inbred white trash hillbilly Illuminati scum. Okay? Or rounders. Illuminati rounders. A lot of the politicians aren't really in the inner circles. They're financed by them, they're promoted by the inner circle, but they're not really in. Not everybody's in, okay? I'll tell you who was in, George Bush Sr. That is the closest we've seen on the world stage in my lifetime to the behind-the-curtain evil, being on the stage, giving the speech himself rather than having the speech written and delivered by a puppet that they put into power. George Bush Sr. was the real deal. That, if you want to look into the face of darkness, look at a picture of George Bush Sr., okay? And the whole family is pretty dark, actually. Okay? Let me see if I can get something else here. Alex Jones is having a field day. Somebody, I think it was Eric Trump or one of his sons on the Candace Owens podcast said that he put forward Alex Jones as a nominee for Trump's press secretary at the White House. Could you imagine that? That's going to be very interesting, and I think everybody involved at the CDC who took part in what they call COVID should be arrested, except for the people further down the ladder. But the COVID, I got to be careful what I say. I don't want to get another strike, okay? But I think the CDC could use a shakeup. I think Anthony Fauci deserves to be arrested. I think a lot of people deserve to be arrested. And here we go. Okay, so this is starting now. Okay, there's an anti-Trump protest in Chicago, Illinois, and this has all been stoked by Lolo Scatamite. Lolo Sotero was the leader of the Indonesian death squads who managed Exxon Oil's interests in Indonesia for the Bush family. And that was the guy who adapted the man who became Barack Hussein Obama. So, there's several ways to look at the concept of a deep state. You could look at it as an entrenched bureaucracy that sucks up too much of our money and does nothing, which is one way of looking at a deep state. And I sometimes use that definition when I read a room and I don't think people are ready for the light of darkness or the other stuff I know. And then the other definition of the deep state is intergenerational mayhem, chaos, mass murder, looting, and outright Luciferianism and Satanism. And that's where you get into Obama, the Bushes, the Trudeaus are definitely in on it. I mean, I did a fantastic podcast about 8 months ago on the Trudeaus. Justin's been linked to the Picton farm, feeding live prostitutes to pigs, and then it's so profane you can't even say it on air, okay? Anyways, let's take a look at this. can't make this shit up. I dare you to even try. So, we're going with the temple narrative. So, I've been right all along. I've been right since about 2020 when I called this. And nobody could see this back then. Nobody. Okay? The only people who knew about this were the insiders. So we're going with the temple narrative. We're going to rebuild the Temple of Solomon, okay? And Donald Trump is Hiram Abiff, okay? And Hiram Abiff was the architect who knew about these magical constructions, okay? Architecture is rightly so considered the mother of the arts, because architecture is an incredible art form when you can create space that can hold certain kinds of resonant frequencies, can amplify your voice a certain way. Cathedrals could do this, Stonehenge could do this. They were all sound amplifiers, okay? Because the human race was created as a battery, an energy source to create psychic energy to feed the plane above us, okay? There you go, it's that simple, okay? Now, this is what's going to happen, okay? Now, again, I wonder sometimes if this is the right time to start talking about these things. But why not? It gives me a greater platform to say I told you so in the future, okay? I told you so. So, let's do it. Let's not hold back. There is a process that's going to go on now in which there's going to be a purging of people. Okay? And those people are going to be former members of the, let's say, the ruling cabal, but they're going to be trimmed now. Okay? And this is my take. Okay? And my take is the Luciferians are going to do in the Satanists. Okay? Now, the way to understand the Luciferians and separate them from the Satanists is Luciferianism is a level above Satanism. Satanism is mainly on the astral plane, and Luciferianism is deliberate self-interest and aggregation of power more in the causal and mental planes. Think of a wicked yogi, okay? But you never see these people as wicked. Nobody ever thinks a Luciferian is a bad person. Okay? They're more like wizards. They're more like Nikola Tesla. Okay? And I'm not saying Nikola Tesla was a Luciferian. The distinction between... Now, two people can hold the same state of consciousness, and one can be an enlightened cosmic consciousness person committed to the advancement of the human race, and the other can be self-interested and be what we would call a Luciferian. And remember, when I speak about these things, I'm speaking about them within the context of a mythological language, and let's call it an architecture of consciousness. So Luciferianism takes place way high up, okay? And the yogis are very evolved too, but the difference between the Luciferian and the cosmic consciousness person and the saint is the saint is in complete surrender to the divine and no longer acts in any way, shape, or form for self-interest, except for the bare minimum of nutrition to keep the body going, the bare minimum of sleep to keep the body going, and that's it. Every breath they take, every word they utter is a blessing upon the people around them and the people who hear them. That is the nature of the saint. The saint is the most elevated character that the human race gets. Okay? Now, my definition of a saint is different than the Catholic churches or the Eastern Orthodox churches. Okay? Those aren't saints, the way I describe a saint. My definition of a saint would be... I'll show you my definition of a saint. Okay? Did I get that right? Spelling, I don't know. Hopefully X will correct me. No, I didn't. Yeah, I did. No, I didn't get it right, but I was thinking of Ma Diama. I'd say that she was in fact a true saint. It's not that I suppose that we have had them in the West, but this is a person who their consciousness, their personality is almost completely removed. It's like being possessed by the divine. Okay, so the same way we look at demonic possession, you get possessed by the divine, and the divine takes over your consciousness. And that is a willing and consensual thing. Okay? So that's the way to look at the saint. Now, what we're going to see now is the beginning of a flushing out of all of these very dark people. The human traffickers. I'll bet you Trump deals with the cartels as well. I'll bet you this administration is going to clean up Sinaloa, Juarez, Tijuana, because the Mexicans can't do it. They're completely corrupt. Okay? You're going to see a lot of things happen in the next 4 years. And if you're a good person who just wants to live a good life with their family, you're going to be jumping up and down, jumping up and down, jumping up and down. Okay? But what this is all leading to is the apparition of what in our tradition we call the Antichrist. And the Antichrist will also be adored by literally everybody on the planet. The Bible says even the elect will be deceived. Okay? Even the enlightened people will be deceived. Okay? So this is what we have coming. And it's all in process now. Now, a lot of people, like I said, this is all going to follow the Western script, okay? Because we're the ones who invented this and we're the ones who authored this. And therefore, we have to be the people who bring it about in the world, because that's the way reality works. If you think it, you own it. And we've been thinking this for, 30 centuries, going back to King Solomon. And more, if you're watching YouTube and you're listening to some of these rabbis in Israel, they're starting to sound a lot like Bruce McDonald, aren't they? Okay? Like their time has come. And the age of the Messiah is here. Of course, there is no Messiah. Nobody's going to say... The Jewish Messiah is a negative figure. Okay? Because God doesn't punish. We punish ourselves. So the idea of an outside force coming in to punish people is a little bit far gone. Now, let's take a look at a little bit of the machinations that brought us to this point. Everything we're living through now has been completely manufactured. So if you want to look at this as a puppet show between the left and the right working together, I would probably not disagree with you in a conversation over coffee. I might add a few finer points and change it up a little bit and add my own unique flavor to it, but I don't think I would necessarily disagree with that. Now, I have said for a long time that this was really the thesis of The Light of Darkness. By the way, anybody wants a copy, audiobook copy of Stardust Ranch or Light of Darkness, let me know. I would ask you for $10 or $15. It's $19.95 on Audible, and I will give you a Google folder, and you can download the MP3 files, which are the same MP3 files that are being sold on Audible. Okay? And this is a good time to listen to. If you don't have time to read, or you're driving, or you're doing something like that, this is an excellent time to listen to The Light of Darkness, because there's a lot going on in that book that's very relevant to what's happening right now. Now, a lot of people, the main criticism in the first 10 or 12 reviews that came in on Amazon was it ends very abruptly. Okay? And I end the book in a very strange way. I talk about a town in Mexico called Charon, I believe was the name of it. And it had been overrun by the cartels. And one day the largely native population became fed up with this. They sacked the town. They fired their police force, and they fired their mayor, and they took over governance of the town and blocked all roads coming in and out of it. Now, prior to their doing this, there was at least one rape and at least one murder a day in this town. I forget what the population was. I don't know, like 50, 100,000, maybe more, maybe 250,000. The towns can be quite big in Mexico. After they took over the town, all rapes and murders stopped. And this went on for an indeterminate period of time, indeterminate because I don't have it off the top of my head. But the federal government came in and restored institutional order to the town and basically created a situation where the cartels could take over. Okay? And this is very much what's been going on in the West now, because institutions like the Temple of Solomon is going to do, institutions amplify intent. So if the intent is evil and that goes into the institutions, your society is going to get evil way more quickly than it would if it just had some bad eggs like bikers and criminals and stuff like that. Because when the institutions are corrupt, it's like an exponential corruption, because the institutions were created to, number one, extract human emotion from the governing of things and stop lynching, really. The formal justice system really evolved because when, in the past, people would lynch people. Okay, they without any real evidence, just on suspicion, they would lynch people. So when you see the institution of justice coming in, you're going, oh, this is good. We're not going to, I don't have to live in the Wild West now where people are lynched. But what's happened over time, and because of deliberate intent, and this is what the Democrats were doing, and it's what Justin Trudeau did, okay? They infect the institutions with negative intent to basically use them as an amplification of the negativity upon the population. The reason we're switching back to the strongman model is it's a revolt against the institutions. But how have our institutions served? When all of these people, like Rachel Maddow, Hillary Clinton, and AOC, the three I played tonight, when all of them lament about what Trump might do, not one of them admits how egregiously deformed our institutions became. There was the show I did, unfortunately somewhat interrupted by copyright issues, but just to review it again, I focused on the Tucker Carlson interview with a journalist and writer by the name of Chris Moritz, who wrote a book called The Fall of California. You might want to pick it up. I haven't read it, but I might. And they were showing how, he showed how this was all deliberate, that over a decade and a half or so, from about 2010, and Kamala Harris was instrumental in this, as was Gavin Newsom. They basically created a situation where criminals don't go to jail and honest people who try to defend themselves do go to jail. The literal and diametric opposite of what these institutions are supposed to be doing. Okay? Because the good people are paying the taxes. And remember, they're paying for this disservice, which is the opposite of a service. So you're paying your taxes in California, and none of the protection you're supposed to be getting is coming in. And it's really bad now. In Santa Monica, they have kidnappings now, just like in Tijuana. Rich white people or their children are being kidnapped by the Mexican mafia and ransomed. And as Chris Moritz said on the Tucker Carlson interview, the media is not telling you about this. Okay? So I don't think I'm going to go too deeply tonight into the whole Luciferian concept, because I want to let people enjoy the moment of Trump's election, because it is a catharsis. It is the release of pent-up emotion. Okay? So enjoy it. And I'm glad Trump got in. But we are nowhere near the end of our troubles, okay? Nowhere near the end of our troubles. This is the beginning of another chapter in a highly, highly scripted narrative. Let's just find a few more laughing points to watch before we go, because I'm so petty, I'm so petty. And this is just so funny, all this shit that's going on. Yeah, so these Democrats are now going to incite their people to fight back. I mean, you can see the craziest shit on X now. People asking each other they're going to be coming for me. Is there a safe house around I can go to? It's like some 21-year-old green-haired, I don't know what my gender is idiot who bought into everything that was said. I mean, these people who hyped the menace of Trump to the degree that it was hyped, They should be arrested for public mischief at the very least, and disturbing the peace, and creating civil unrest. And I mean all of them. Hillary, Obama, all of them. Because what they've done is like pretty much unforgivable. Unforgivable. Now let me just find one more good one. I can't find the really good one where it has like the leftist reactions to the all right, well, let's finish. No, I don't want to do that either. Let's go Trump's message to Hamas. Oh, here's something. So this is entirely predictable. Let's take a look at this.
Christianity are the biggest things missing from this country, and I truly believe that we need to bring them back, and we have to bring them back fast. I think it's one of the biggest problems we have. That's why our country is going haywire. We've lost religion in our country. All Americans need a Bible in their home, and I have many. It's my favorite book. It's a lot of people's favorite book. This Bible is a reminder that the biggest thing we have to bring back America and to make America great again is our religion. Religion is so important. It's so missing, but it's going to come back, and it's going to come back strong, just like our country is going to come back strong. In the end, we do not answer to bureaucrats in Washington. We answer to God in heaven. Christians are under siege. We must protect content that is pro-God. We love God, and we have to protect anything that is pro-God. We must defend God in the public square and not allow the media or the left-wing groups to silence, censor, or discriminate against us. We have to bring Christianity back into our lives and back into what will be again a great nation. And I think you all should get a copy of God Bless the USA Bible Now and help spread our Christian values with others. There you have it. Let's make America pray again. God bless you, and God bless the USA.
And there's a reason he's talking about religion, and you know what it is if you listen to the Talamanca review. That temple's on its way, folks. All right, the animal sacrifices and the black magic is on its way. I'm Bruce McDonald, and this